Alright guys, welcome to another insanely long C4 Corvette video. There were a couple of fans, Julie and Robert, who saw the videos that I did on my old 1985 C4 Corvette and decided that, they live close enough that they wanted to bring theirs over to me to have fixed. They've had a bunch of other shops work on it for them in the past without stellar results, so hopefully this time around we'll get some stuff fixed. Let me introduce you to the car. So this is a 1988, I believe, C4 convertible, automatic with 350 like they all were. It's a nice car. It's got tan interior, and it's got white exterior. It's a pretty nice car. Give you a good look. Sorry, I'm in the garage. It's all kind of tied up in here, but an extra car bay is not a bad thing to have. So a few of the complaints that they have are, one, there's a battery drain, which that's pretty normal for a C4, but we'll try to figure it out if we can. Try to figure it out and see if we can see where it's coming from. The next thing that they have is their third brake light back here is unplugged now, but it always stays on. And then also they have these markers when they go into reverse. These markers light up, but these reverse lights don't. So hopefully we can figure that out. They had this engine rebuilt or replaced by a shop. They did an okay job, but one of the complaints that they have is that it idles really, really high. And the reason why is because the throttle body, you can see it, doesn't actually close all the way. So it likes to sit right about here. And in order to fix that, which to me was a really crappy fix, they put a spring from here to here just to kind of hold this all shut so to idle where it's supposed to go. The problem is the spring that they put on it made it really, really hard to push the gas pedal down, and it was just a bad idea. So right now it idles really, really high. It's about that far off of idle, and without that spring it won't idle down. So I think it's going to need a new throttle body, but we'll get to that when we get to that. I don't want to put another spring on there just because I think that's Bubba, to tell you the truth. I don't think that's how it should be. There's the spring that they put on it right here. So they just hooked it in here and then wrapped this around this, and it just makes pushing the gas down really hard. If you had to drive it anywhere more than 10 minutes away, it's just not a good idea. Here's the inside of the car. Pretty normal for a car. It has 85,000 miles on it, so not too bad, but age will do a number to the seat. So maybe we'll get to this interior, I don't know. I'm not really sure how long they want to go with it, but little things we can fix today, and that will work for them. With the key on and the car in reverse, we now have working reverse lights. So what I had to do is I had to remove the license plate and bezel, and then these are all loose inside of their housings. So I took them out, got the bulbs all tight, put them back in, and now we have working reverse lights. So that's really, really good. Since I have this out now, we can access maybe better this third brake light and kind of figure out why that's not turning off when the brakes are hit. So I'll have to remove this panel with some Torx head screws and get to it that way, I think. This tail light has two studs on each end of this this bracket that goes around it. I got this one out fairly easily from going in at the top through the gas filler door, but this other one I just can't get to, even got the smaller hands. So what I've done is I lowered the tire carrier. It basically has a big bolt like this that holds it up, and that bolt threads into this shaft right here, which I will get out of the way so then I can reach up in here a little bit easier and get that light out of there. I tried for way too long to get this light either out the license plate hole or out the fuel door, and it's just too big. So what I've done is I basically popped it out and flipped it around. This is the back end of it. We're going to pop this cover off and see what it looks like underneath. And here we are inside this light. So that wire's got a rub spot on it, which actually might have been the reason why it was on all the time. So we'll address that with a little bit of heat shrink. But these bulbs, I don't think I have any more of these bulbs. That one in the middle looks good. We're going to have to see. I might have to go to the store and buy them. But I don't see why that one's not working. It should work. Let's test it again. I swapped this bulb with this bulb to make sure it's not a connection issue and that it is a bulb issue. So let's see what happens since I swap the bulb. I have the brake lights permanently depressed. I'm going to wiggle some stuff around, see if I can get something to light. That's weird. Wow, those get hot. You see, oh, it went. It did something. Okay, so it's a socket issue. Wonder what's wrong with it. It might just be dirty inside. Maybe I can bend the pins of this light out a little bit. Let's try that. Aha! There we go. 3 lights. Boom. Time to put it back together. The reason for these lights staying on was I bet that wire was grounding in the housing somewhere, and that would keep it on. That's why the owner unplugged it so it wouldn't work. Now it will work great because I'm going to fix that. And there's the finished product. We have all 3 lights working, and the reverse lights also working. The battery's getting kind of low, so they're kind of dim. But success on those 2 fixes. Alright, so time to dig in to this throttle body. I've disconnected it, and you can see that it does not want to shut all the way. It's about that far off. And you look inside, you can see the throttle plates aren't closed, so that's going to make it idle really, really high. But what I've done is I've disconnected all of, so you have a kickdown cable, you have your cruise cable, and your cable from your gas pedal. And I noticed something interesting. You see this? This is a vacuum line that I'm pretty sure the shop installed incorrectly. Because if you see, if I leave it where it is, the throttle won't close all the way. But if I push it down, it does suddenly, all of a sudden, closes all the way. So I'm hoping that's the fix. That would be a great fix if it was just this vacuum cable that's routed on top of the thermostat housing instead of below where it belongs. Let's see. Yeah, I think I'm going to reroute that and see if that fixes our issue. Well, it looked like it fixed it. You can actually see on this part, I don't know if you can see right there. You probably can't, it's probably too dark, but there's indent marks where this throttle was hitting it. But, I mean, I thought this spring right here was going to be bad, but look at this. When I just let it go, it goes all the way back where it's supposed to go. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this other than the dumb head mechanics who put it together. They just put this and it got in the way. I mean, this is a really hard vacuum line, which, it's going to make a difference if it's bogging up your throttle. But yeah, I think that's it. Once this battery charges, we'll start the car up and see where it idles. Before it would idle at, 1800, 2000 RPM. And I'm thinking with this, it'll idle a little bit lower than before. Fingers crossed. But that's a great fix right there. I really hate bagging on other shops, but you know what? I can't stand to see stuff like this. So, the people that own this car, they paid a bunch of money to have the engine replaced. I'm not going to tell you how much it was, but it was a lot. A lot more than I would charge. And then you have stuff like this. This is left loose. You can even put it back the way it's supposed to be. It's not hard to do. You have stuff like this emissions line up over the top of everything. This is actually supposed to run underneath these runners and then up that way. You have, this is kind of nitpicky, but these are the wrong directions. They're opposite directions. I mean, for the amount of money people pay, I'm amazed the work isn't better. And then, like you just saw, instead of looking and seeing that the throttle is getting held up by a hard vacuum line, you drill a hole in this bracket and put a spring from here to here in order to shut it. Not impressed at all, to tell you the truth. Hopefully, these little fixes make a big difference and make the car a little bit easier to drive. There's your proof right there. Right where it should be. 1,000. Yep, that's it. We take a break from this program to show you Chopstick, who's decided he wants a color change. Instead of being a black dog, he wants to be a golden dog. And the only way he knows how? Put grass all over himself. Chop, you look disgusting. You think Mom's going to let you inside? Huh? Hey. You think Mom's going to let you inside looking like that? You look like a hobo. Give me a high five. Good boy. Alright, give me a double high five. Give me your other high five. You need my other hand. High five. Other high five. Good boy. Double high five. Okay, you dirt dog. Go outside. Go play. Go play. Go play with Noodle. Go get her. A very common complaint on these C4s is that the fuel gauge will read permanently full. The most common fix to that is pulling out this gas tank sender, and there's a float arm that goes up and down with the level of the gas, and usually that corrodes just due to age. And we're going to take this one out and check it out. So I've already confirmed that yes, the fuel always reads full. They drove it like an hour and a half to get here, so there's no way it's still full. It's pretty simple. You guys saw this on the last C4 that I worked on. In order to remove this sender, you have a plug right here that you have to unhook. Then you have 3 fuel lines, so this one, and that one. And then you have 9 bolts that go all the way around. 2 things you want to do before you do this repair. One, you need to let the fuel pressure go, so you don't want gas to spray everywhere. I've already turned the key and put fuel pressure in the system, just to check that the gauge was reading faulty, and it is. So I will remove the fuel pump fuse and then try to start the car and then let it die. Then from there won't be any more fuel pressure. And then next what you want to do is you want to spray all these bolts down, because the last thing you want to do is break off one of these bolts. It would just make this job so much longer than it needs to be. So right here is the fuel pump fuse. There might be in different spots on different cars, but you take that out and then you turn the key, you make sure the fuel pump is not running, and then start the car. Another check that you can do, just to be safe, is you have a Schrader valve right here on your fuel rail, at least for the TPI cars, so from 85 to 91. So you can just hit that little Schrader valve, and if there is any kind of fuel pressure, it will be gone pressing that down. So since we unplugged the fuel pump, there is none, so we are good to go. We have the sending unit removed. Actually looks really good. Usually if there's been any kind of water in the tank, you know, all this stuff is rusty and nasty. The issue though is going to be inside of here. So here's the float arm that moves up and down with the level of the gas. And a really good way to test it before you take it all apart is you put your multimeter to read ohms like this. You ground the top to the sending unit. So I have an alligator clip that I've attached to that so I don't have to hold it. And then you hold this to the very top of this wire, and as you move the float arm, it should change in resistance, and right now it's not. So it's going to read, it's reading pretty much, that's what it'll read when it's full, and so that's why the gauge always thinks it's full even though it's not. So what we have to do is we have to pop off these 3 tabs and then lift this off and then clean all the stuff on the inside. So this is removed, and there's a problem inside of it. So there's supposed to be little windings that run from basically, let me show you, from the top here all the way down here, pretty much like a squiggly metal line. But that's completely gone. Yeah, it obviously has been ruined in the past, so there's no way that this is ever going to work. The other problem is this sender, I don't think they sell it, or I don't think they sell just the windings. I think you have to buy the entire sender. So this project's going to pause for a little bit until we can figure out what the owner wants to do. But yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. I was hoping it would just need to be cleaned, but yep, it's in there and all kinds of gone. Well, it's been a long time between Christmas and New Year's, and it was really cold. Finally getting back to this car. So we have what we need in order to put it together and make the gas gauge work. Here is the new sender, and it's made of stainless steel, so it won't look like that after 20 years. I'm going to try to show you inside of here. I don't know if you guys can see in that little hole. Probably not. But everything works inside of there for the gas gauge. Get out! What the freak it is with these chickens. So the only thing we really have to do is we have to switch the fuel pump from this one to this one, which is a pretty easy job. I've checked all the connectors and all the wiring and all that kind of stuff. It's all the same, it all matches up, so it's correct for the car, which is good. And other than that, it should just be a bolt-on kind of deal. And we have a new gasket, a new sock, and all that kind of stuff. So that is definitely good and worth the money that you spend on something like this. The fuel pump is already in, and I'm going to test this fuel gauge before I bother to put it all back in, because it would suck to put it all back together and it doesn't work. So what I've done is I've left the fuel pump unplugged, but I plugged in the sender right here. So I'm going to turn the key to on, and we should be able to see. Let's put this at a low spot and see if the gauge actually now changes. Alright, so that leaves it about a quarter. Alright, so I have the sender all the way up, and this looks like it slowly goes tick, tick, tick as it goes up. I would expect it was like a mechanical gauge where it will just do it as I move the arm up and down, but it started at a quarter and that's ticked its way up all the way to 3/4. Learned something about C4s today, that these gauges aren't, if you suddenly lost 20 gallons, it wouldn't show you on your display until a little bit later. With the new sender in, we're now able to test and make sure there's no fuel leaks. Pretty simple, just prime the pump, and there should be no leaks from any of these 3 fuel lines. I did have to replace this fuel line. I think it's just a vapor line. I don't think any gas actually goes through it really, but I had to go to O'Reilly's and get it. It was $2 a foot or whatever, but you have to get the stuff that's specifically for fuel injection.